living by myself has given me quite a bit of time to do some thinking these last couple of months. And I realize there's so much we miss that we've taken for granted. And for me, one of the things I miss the most is the opportunity to break bread, to share a meal with family, with friends, a meal that I've cooked or they've cooked, or that a new restaurant, a new spot that we've tried. It gets old eating all by yourself, and it's harder to eat well. I swear at about 8 o'clock at night I can start hearing the carbs calling me by name from the refrigerator. One of the stories that I remembered was because of all this. When I first went over from here to St. Gertrude's Parish as pastor, I met the woman who was in charge of the Ladies' Guild. She was 80 years old, and we sat and talked. She said, "Father, I'm sorry, I don't think I can give you more than 5 more years in this job." I said, "I'll take whatever you can give." A wonderful lady. Whenever there was a parish event that had like a sweets table as part of the fundraising or Christmas bazaar, she would always have her strawberry rhubarb pies. And they were this high off the table. They were incredible feats of nature, these pies that she made. If we were having some type of gathering where food would be offered, desserts or something, again, those wonderful strawberry rhubarb pies. I didn't know that she would spend whatever time of year rhubarbs and strawberries were in season, baking these pies and freezing them to have the opportunity to use them on these occasions. And I told her how much I really liked her strawberry rhubarb pie. And that meant every time she brought one to a parish activity, she'd bring another one to the rectory for me. And I would bring it to the kitchen, and I would announce to the staff we were going to take a break and share her strawberry rhubarb pie. Because I knew if I didn't share it with the staff, that same pie would be calling me down 2 flights of stairs at 1 or 2 in the morning to finish it off. So I had to make sure we finished that pie off. After 5 years, she did what she said she was going to do. She stepped down as chair of the Ladies' Guild. Not long afterwards, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I would visit her regularly, and it was sad to see kind of the life force, the energy, slowly being taken from her. She stayed at home with a caretaker, and as it got closer to the end of her life, I would visit her with a little bit more frequency. And one day I went, and the caretaker said, "Thank goodness she's not in any pain, but Father, there's not much time left at all." So I remember sitting on a chair next to her bed, and I said, "Jean, how are you doing?" And she said, "I'm not in any pain." I said, "That's good." She said, "They give me something so that I can sleep." I said, "That's good." She said, "And I wonder if I'm going to wake up the next day." And I said, "Jean, how does that make you feel?" She said, "Well, that's why before I fall asleep, I say this little prayer that we all know, and that brings me peace." She started to say the prayer, and I joined in with her. "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." She said it with great peace. I'm the one sobbing in the chair as I listened to her. An incredible prayer. She smiled at me and said, "I'm tired now." And I said, "Okay, I'll see you soon." She smiled again. She died during that night. I was privileged to hear her pray that prayer one last time. We had a wonderful celebratory funeral of a life well lived, a life that left its mark on so many people. And about 2 weeks later, her son came to the door of the rectory with a shopping bag, and he said, "Father, my mom wanted me to leave this for you." And inside were 2 strawberry rhubarb pies. With the instruction, she said, "I know you've been sharing it with your staff. That's the first pie. The second one is all for you." I really enjoyed that pie. It brought me great joy, realizing what a beautiful life that has touched mine, her life. Food has a way of doing that to us, really does. And today, in the middle of all we're going through, all 3 of our readings talk about food. Isaiah tells us, "You shall eat well." Not just you're going to have enough to eat. You shall eat well. And Paul tells us the food that we receive will not separate us. It will bring us together. And of course, in the gospel, we have the miracle, the loaves and the fishes. I want to say how much you're paying attention. We've heard that reading so many times, and there are different versions of it in the different gospels. Who does Jesus tell to distribute the fish and the bread after he blesses it? The apostles. You all had that right answer. You remember that. How many apostles do we have? Traditionally, 12. How many basketfuls of food left over? 12. Well, isn't that convenient? Each one of them has a basket full of food. So the question is, did Jesus bless the food and work a miracle? Or did he bless the food and let the apostles work the miracle? The same basket they had is full. That means it doesn't end at the side of the hill with that meal. They're always going to have that basket of food. It'll always be full. They're always going to have the fish. They're always going to have the bread. They're always going to have the nourishment to share with people. Their life as disciples of the Lord, sharing Christ's loving, hope-filled presence, begins at that moment, and it will continue until their very last breath. It continues with us today because he said to them later on, "Do this in memory of me," at the Last Supper. And that echoes the manna in the desert from the Old Testament and the Passover meal when the Jews were being freed from slavery in Egypt. It echoes all of that. And it should be echoing in our lives right now. God is with us in the midst of all that is happening around us, in the midst of all the headlines, in the midst of all the difficulty just trying to watch and get the news, not a bunch of opinions thrown at us. God is with us. And that should be giving us hope. And hope is what we need to have right now. The hope that we need right now is the hope that allows us to share God's presence, just as the disciples shared the fish and the loaves with the people. A hope that says we will somehow come out of this. A hope that says we will always have enough to share with others. And it is the hope that will allow us to be generous with the blessings we have. We're here. We're blessed. So many of our brothers and sisters, even in our own community, our own neighborhoods, maybe among our own families, dealing with illness, dealing with job loss, dealing with income loss, dealing with so many issues, difficulties in their lives. How are they going to find hope? Because we share the hope we have. We are generous with the gifts that God continues to give us in the midst of all that is happening. We share with time, our care, our concern, our generosity, our love for them. We show by our very actions every day that we are a people of hope and that our God is with us. And nobody can take that away from us. Nobody can legislate that away from us. Nobody can scare that away from us. Nobody can threaten that away from us. Our faith tells us we are a people of hope, and we are nourished by that faith. So every day and every way we have the opportunity to see God working in our life, that's the loaves and fishes in our baskets that we are called to share with one another. We need to feed one another with that hope. Literally, people need to be fed. Emotionally, friends and neighbors need to be fed. Spiritually, so many around us need to find that hope, that same hope that came with that simple prayer the last night of that wonderful woman's life. I'm going to disagree with one of the great philosophers of life who once said, "Cut the pie into 4 pieces. I don't think I can eat 8 pieces." Yogi Berra said that. Well, we can cut that piece of pie into as many pieces as we want, because we're going to be able to share that pie over and over and over again. It's not all for us to eat. The blessings, the gifts that God has given to us is not just for us to hoard, to keep for ourselves, but to generously share with each other. It is that gift of hope that we celebrate every time we gather here. Every time when we can't gather here, when we watch this here. Every time when we can't gather or can't even watch it on the computer, we stop and say a simple little prayer. We give our soul to God to keep. So no matter what happens, our God will be with us to share those blessings that God has given us. Let us continue to hope.